welcome to Snowflake, Arizona. In November 1975, something really extraordinary happened over here in the nearby forest. 7 men were in the truck on the way back home from work, and in the forest they noticed some kind of strange light. Thinking that it might have been a crashed plane, they went to have a look, and in a clearing they found not a crashed plane, but something none of them expected. It was a saucer-shaped craft illuminating the entire place, and it was hovering above the clearing. Now, one of the guys named Travis Walton, he ended up getting out of the truck. He went closer to it, whilst the other ones were like, don't go near it. And he went pretty close. After a moment he went down, and as he got up, and some kind of a discharge hit him. He went flying a few meters, and the other guys, scared shitless, they ended up taking a truck and went away, thinking he was dead. But after a while of driving, they realized, hang on, let's go get Travis. So they returned, but both Travis as well as the craft were gone. Now, it sounds like something from a movie, and actually this was made into a movie called Fire in the Sky in 1993, which is a good movie. I can recommend it if you're into this kind of stuff. But it wasn't entirely correct in terms of what happened there. You might be thinking that the guys probably made it up, it was just a prank or something like that. But here's the thing: Travis went missing for 5 days. No one could find him. The other six guys that were with him, the police was actually suspecting them that they murdered him. And so it was pretty serious, and they were all super stressed out. Now, 5 days later, Travis reappeared. He was found on the edge of the town in a phone booth, and then he said later on he was super traumatized by what happened, and then he described what happened. He found himself inside the craft, which wasn't particularly large, but he was inside, and there were beings with fairly large eyes, very skinny and fairly small. He couldn't really breathe that well. It was really hard for him. Might have been the stress over what happened, might have been the injuries, could have been something to do with the air inside the craft. And he started fighting them. At one point he pushed one of them, and he said that it was very easy to push him over. Didn't have any they didn't portray any emotions with their faces, which probably made him even more scared. At one point he grabbed something like a cylindrical glass object, transparent, when he started swinging at them. Then he ended up going into a different room where he encountered what looked like a human being wearing some kind of overall or something like that, and a helmet. This man, he didn't say anything to him. Might have had a slight smile, but he ended up taking him. And when they left the craft, he was in some other place. He didn't know where exactly it was. The ceiling, either it let the sunshine through, or it kind of mimicked the sunshine. There was some other craft. Then some lady put a mask on him, and it's pretty much all he could remember. Like I say, it was very traumatizing for him, and everything that happened afterwards only made things worse. Now, after that, all of these guys went through polygraph tests. At first, some of them were inconclusive, but upon further investigation and further polygraph tests, they actually passed the test. So they weren't lying when they were saying that there was a craft in a clearing. As I'm looking at the sky ahead of me, I see some lightning. Maybe you can hear it, but probably not. But the thing with the electrical discharge that hit Travis, back then people thought that it could have been intentional or malevolent from the side of the beings who piloted the craft. But the thing is, this area where it happened, it experiences the highest number of lightning strikes apart from the Everglades because of the water and everything, which is quite interesting. So the discharge might have not been intentional, might have been just an accident. And according to even Travis, when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, which I highly recommend you guys listen to that podcast, he said that the fact that he was missing 5 days, he obviously can't remember what happened in those 5 days, and he wasn't in a particularly bad state when he came back. It might have been that they took him because they wanted to make sure he's okay, and perhaps even give him some medical treatment so he wouldn't die. As he said on the podcast, he had 45 years to think about what happened to him, and that's the conclusion he came to. Now, even as I was driving yesterday to Snowflake, it's 30 miles from the nearest town. It was dark, and I could see the lightning at the horizon, and even now I can see some lightning a bit further away. It's quite interesting to be here. I always write about all these stories that happen over here in the States, whether it's Arizona, New Mexico, or wherever. And now I get to visit all of them, so it's really something for me. Now back to Travis's story. It's a very interesting case, because if you take all the evidence that's present, the eyewitnesses, the polygraph tests, and the fact that he was missing for 5 days, and I mean, you could convict someone of a murder with this kind of evidence. So it's a very interesting case, to say the least, and it's one of those things that really got me back into the UFO, UAP phenomena. As I mentioned in some of my podcasts, I kind of moved away from it a few years ago, because the deeper you go, the stranger it gets, and if you learn about some other topics, it gives a bit of a different perspective on what's happening. It's definitely not as simple as some beings from another planet coming here. There's a lot more to it. Like I said, this was a really extraordinary event, and even when you listen to Travis, you can tell he's not making stuff up, and the fact that he's been consistent with his story, and it's over the other guys actually that were with him who are willing to speak about it. They never really changed the story, and I remember even seeing a bit interview with, I think it was David Letterman, and there was Travis with his friend who was there as well with him. Someone did an analysis of their non-verbal communication, whether they were being deceptive or not. Turns out actually the UFO skeptic, I think it was Philip Glass, but I'm not sure. Turns out he was more deceptive than the other guys. Even for example, when Travis said something, and then his friend followed up, Travis didn't look at him like, okay, tell what we are supposed to, or what we are supposed to say. You know, he just looked at Letterman. He knew that he would say the truth. His friend, I mean. So, in conclusion, I would say this is definitely one of the best cases we have out there, even though it seems so far-fetched, especially to the majority of people, that some other beings from, I don't know, another planet, another reality could come here and just snatch someone up. But considering all the evidence that's out there, and even Travis's character and how he stayed consistent with his story throughout the years. And I would say it's definitely legit. It definitely happened, and it should at least make people think of what's out there and what's going on. In terms of alien abductions, it's for a lot of people, like I say, it's a hard pill to swallow. But when you look at, for example, John Mack's research, who was a Harvard professor, was very skeptical of what's going on, and he actually wrote a book about nightmares. So if there was someone who could distinguish whether this was some kind of a real occurrence or whether it was just nightmares, it was him. And fairly quickly he came to a conclusion that what was going on was a real phenomenon. People were being traumatized, they suffered from PTSD from these experiences. And it wasn't just hallucinations, it wasn't just nightmares or anything like it, or some kind of a new mental illness. And I think Travis's case really confirms it, especially since there were witnesses and all the rest of it. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to an episode of this series that I'm doing, where I go to places where something special, paranormal, mysterious happened. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends, give a like, subscribe, comment. It's really appreciated. Make sure you check out my podcast. I talk about similar topics on it, as well as a lot more. Again, the lightning. Better get moving actually. Going to Grand Canyon after this. So yeah, thank you very much. Check out Terra Vitality for some merch and for some services as well. We are gonna do some really good stuff, and we are also supporting Project Child Safe. So if you want to donate to something good, where in this case these guys can go to places and literally save kids from being trafficked, all the money goes directly towards these missions. Please support them. The links are as always below. I'll catch you in the next one.